Scenario time. Two teachers are up for the same job. Both of them have the exact same qualifications, except one of them also has her ESL Supplemental certification. Which one do you think the district is going to choose? In Texas, there's no question. Job candidates with the ESL Supplemental certification have the edge because of the high percentage of English language learners in the classroom. I'm Emma. I was an elementary teacher for 8 years, including in a bilingual classroom. Now, I help teachers pass their certification exams at 240, and today, I'm gonna help you. I'm going to prepare you for the TExES ESL Supplemental test. This video is gonna cover 3 things: what's on the test and how to study for it, the most likely concepts you'll need to know, and we're gonna look at a few practice questions. Make sure your tray table is stowed and your seat is in the upright position, and let's get started. Now, the ESL Supplemental is broken into 3 domains: language concepts and language acquisition, ESL instruction and assessment, and last, this one is a mouthful, foundations of ESL education, cultural awareness, and family and community involvement. Try saying that 5 times fast.
Foundations of ESL education, cultural awareness, and family and community involvement. Foundations of ESL education, cultural awareness, and family and community involvement. Foundations of small culture.
Good thing that isn't required to pass. Each domain has between 2 and 5 competencies nestled under it. The first domain we'll look at is ESL instruction and assessment. This is domain 2 of the ESL supplemental exam, but don't worry, we'll circle back to domain 1 here in a bit. We're starting with domain 2 because it's the biggest of the exam. It's made up of 5 competencies and counts for almost half of your score, so you'll really want to pay attention to these. Before we jump into the competencies, let's talk about a super important concept that comes up 6 times within domain 2 alone. I'm talking about the ELPs. These are the English language proficiency standards used when teaching English language learners in Texas. They describe student expectations for listening, speaking, reading, and writing at the beginning, intermediate, advanced, and advanced high levels. Now, this may seem like a lot of information, and it is, but we've taken these charts and broken them down into easily digestible takeaways, and you'll find them in our study guide. Just FYI, in addition to this amazing video, we have online study guides that give you all the tools, flashcards, and authentic questions you need to guarantee you pass your test. We've put the link in our description below so you can subscribe after you finish this video. On your exam, there are 2 main ways you'll be tested on the ELPs. You may need to identify an effective strategy to use based on the ELL's proficiency level, or you may have to identify the student's proficiency level based on a work or conversation sample. Now, let's go over a key concept to know for each competency in Domain 2. When we zoom in on descriptive statement C from competency 3, we see the term communicative competence. This means students learning English can form phrases and sentences, fix communication breakdowns, put together longer forms of communication, and respond appropriately based on the particular situation. Now, competency 4 is a natural step from this. It's all about promoting students' communicative language development. One effective way to do this is providing feedback to English language learners. This does not mean getting into the nitty-gritty of every error a student makes by explaining why it's wrong. That sounds exhausting. Effective feedback can be as simple as restating what the ELL says, minus the errors. For example, if an ELL said, "I put salts on my popcorn," the teacher could respond with, "Oh, you put salt on your popcorn? I do that too," to correct the error without directly pointing it out. Remember me talking about the ELPs? These come up a lot in Competency 5. This makes sense because Competency 5 is all about literacy development, and the ELPs cover reading and writing, along with listening and speaking, which are interrelated to literacy. Within Domain 2, Competency 6 is all about promoting ESL students' content area learning. For example, think about teaching ELL science or social studies for this one. Now, before you can teach the content, you have to be aware of factors that may affect ELLs in this area. Potential issues include lack of prior learning experiences, lack of familiarity with specialized language and vocabulary, lack of familiarity with structure and uses of textbooks and other print resources, and varying English language proficiency and content area knowledge. We cover strategies to address each of these issues in our study guide. Let's go over one now. Make content comprehensible to English language learners through scaffolding techniques, such as activating and building background knowledge, pre-teaching key vocabulary terms, and using gestures and other visual cues throughout instruction. Competency 7 is the last of the second domain, and it is all about assessment, including the ESL program process in TExES. That kind of rolls off the tongue. Process in TExES. You may be wondering what assessment has to do with the ESL program process. Well, for one, entering an ESL program starts with a test. Once it has been determined that a language other than English is spoken in the student's home, an assessment is given before a meeting is held to determine the student's placement. All students who are placed in a bilingual or ESL program in TExES also participate in TELPAS, which stands for the TExES English Language Proficiency Assessment System. It evaluates the English language development of limited English proficiency learners. Now, let's dive into Domain 1. I have some great stuff to show you for this one. Domain 1 is called Language Concepts and Language Acquisition. It comprises competencies 1 and 2. Now I'm going to go over some amazing, concrete concepts you should know. Did I already mention the 240 study guide? Our 240 guides have hundreds of questions, in-depth videos, and test-aligned study materials, so you can get the depth you need to pass. But let's jump back in now. The two competencies are Fundamental Language Concepts and L1 and L2 Processes and Interrelatedness. Basically, this domain is all about language and how people learn it. L1 stands for Language 1, meaning someone's native language, while L2 stands for Language 2, meaning a second language. Which brings us back to the name of the exam, English as a Second Language, or ESL, which is not to be confused with ELPS, which, as we discussed, is one of the most important concepts you need to know on the test. Whew, that's a lot of whiches. For Competency 1, you'll need to know the building blocks of language, starting with phonetics, which is the study of the basic sounds of speech, and building all the way out to pragmatics, which is the practical use of language. You'll also need to be familiar with the theories about how people learn language, such as the stages of second language acquisition, BICS and CALP, Krashen's 5 hypotheses, the natural approach, the Kala approach, the nativist theory, the social interactionist theory, and total physical response, just to name a few. Now, you could spend your time Googling what each of these terms mean, vetting the sources you find on the internet, and then writing down what you think are the key points about each of these terms. Or you could just get our study guide and be confident you are learning exactly what you need to know to pass the TExES ESL Supplemental test. But let's go ahead and talk about one of these theories in detail. BICS stands for Basic Interpersonal Communication Skills. CALP stands for Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency. Language development professor Jim Cummins theorizes that it takes 1 to 3 years to reach proficiency in BICS, while it takes 5 to 7 years to develop CALP. BICS are more visible, like the tip of the iceberg. They're seen every day in routine interactions with friends and family. CALP is more under the surface. It is required for specialized situations, like formal school settings. The iceberg becomes even more complex when CULP is factored in. CULP stands for Common Underlying Language Proficiency, and this dual iceberg indicates that L1 knowledge can support the acquisition of L2. We have a video all about this in the study guide. Now let's get into Domain 3. You remember, the long one with the funny name? Yes, I'm talking about Foundations of ESL Education, Cultural Awareness, and Family and Community Involvement. It's helpful to know that each part of this name translates to the 3 competencies covered in this domain. Let's talk about the foundational competency first. This one is all about the foundations of ESL education. It may surprise you to know that court cases come up on the ESL supplemental exam, but they do. Here are a couple of important ones to know. Lau versus Nichols is considered the cornerstone for providing equitable access to education for ELLs whose home language is something other than English. The children of concern were Chinese American students in the San Francisco Unified School District who were receiving instruction in English, which they could not understand. The court ruled that children needed scaffolding and other strategies to make the instructional input comprehensible. One more important court case you should know for your exam is Castaneda versus Picard. This case set the criteria to ensure districts take actions to meet the needs of ELLs, including implementing research-based resources and effective programs for them. Now, competencies 9 and 10 each have 2 key takeaways that will help you answer exam questions with confidence. Competency 9 is all about promoting an effective learning environment for students from diverse cultural and linguistic backgrounds. Let's talk about the two main ideas that come up in questions from this competency. First, students should be given the opportunity to share information about their culture with the class. Second, teachers should engage the class in lessons about cultural differences, both proactively and when conflict arises due to students behaving in ways not considered the norm to their peers. And finally, Competency 10 covers family and community involvement. Here are some important things to consider that will help you when these questions pop up on your exam. Families from other countries have had different educational experiences and may be unfamiliar with American school and all that it entails. Empower them with the information and present it in a way that is comprehensible to them. It's not effective to share assessment data with parents if they're not sure what they're looking at. Make sure they understand what was assessed and what the results indicate. Now that we've gone over some of the big concepts, let's look at some practice questions to show you how these concepts can appear on the test. If you want a lot of practice questions, you can click the free practice test below. Did I mention the 240 study guide has a money-back guarantee that you'll pass? Now for questions. Remember how Domain 1 includes understanding basic concepts of language? Let's look at how that's reflected in a question. A student who understands how to create a word by adding a prefix to another word has learned about morphology, pragmatics, phonetics, phonology. Now, I thought the correct answer here was phonology, but it turns out that's not quite it. The correct answer here is actually morphology. Through the question feedback in the study guide, I can see that morphology refers to word formation. New words can be formed by adding an affix to a root. A prefix is an affix that can be added before the root, like adding re to do to form redo. Now, let's look at some questions from Domain 2. Remember, this is the biggest one. An ESL teacher likes to use sentence frames to help provide ELL students with vocabulary and structure that they might not be able to produce on their own. This is an example of which of the following types of linguistic accommodation: written, scaffolded, communicated, sequenced. The correct answer is scaffolded. With scaffolded accommodations, ELLs receive structured support that enhances the learning of language and content. Sentence frames are just one example of instructional scaffolding. Let's try another. This one is about the Alps. Yes, the Alps again. When responding to a prompt about Western expansion in an 8th grade history class, an English learner writes the following. In 1803, the Louisiana Purchase made the U.S. twice more big than before. The American people was interesting in new land. Everyone want land to farm, you know? So many people moved west. This student's writing style is characteristic of a student at which of the following levels of writing proficiency? Beginning, intermediate, advanced, advanced high? The work sample indicates that the student is performing at the intermediate level of English language writing proficiency. It is usual for an ELL at this level to write loosely connected text which has an oral tone. This student makes some errors with comparatives, noun-verb agreement, and adjectives. These errors are all common for the intermediate level. All right, Domain 3. A school district is planning to introduce a new ESL program, and it is debating between a sheltered English immersion program or a structured English immersion program. Which is true about structured English immersion, but not sheltered English immersion? Structured English immersion programs don't adapt instruction to meet the needs of students who are not proficient in English. Teachers in structured English immersion programs have a bilingual education or ESL teaching credential. Structured English immersion programs don't provide explicit ESL instruction. Structured English immersion programs teach English through the content areas. Structured programs don't provide explicit ESL instruction, while sheltered programs do. Sheltered programs have language objectives to accompany each content objective in lessons. The other choices are true about both structured and sheltered programs. Now that's just a small sampling of practice questions to give you an idea about how these concepts are assessed on the test. Congratulations on finishing the questions. Remember at the beginning of the video when we were talking about those 2 job candidates? TExES has about 1 million students who are enrolled in English as a second language classes. That's roughly 20% of the state's public school students. For that reason, the candidate that has the ESL Supplemental certification has the edge over the other candidate. In fact, many districts in TExES require the ESL Supplemental. so you've got good reasons for studying. Thanks for flying with us today. If you found this video helpful, give it a like. There's still plenty more to learn. Did you know that thousands of teachers have passed their certification tests by using 240 study guides? If you really want to make sure you're prepared for the TExES ESL Supplemental exam, take the next step and subscribe to the 240 study guide. It has hours of videos, so you can watch and/or listen while doing chores. It's test aligned, so you know precisely what you need to study. It has hundreds of practice questions, so you can be sure you're ready. And it comes with a money-back guarantee, so click the link below right now to get started.